If you are to mix it and it does go water, you can always keep adding powder, but what you don't want to do is put too much powder in and then add water. Today we're finishing off the tiles, going to grouting all the splashbacks all around in the kitchen area, just giving you an idea of how to start and where to go. Basically, if you look at the back of the bag, it gives you the ratio, 3 volumes of powder to 1 volume of water. Basically, it's going to keep pouring it to get a good consistency. But you need to get it to almost like a pasty texture. Have a look. It's a nice texture. If you are to mix it and it does go water, you can always keep adding powder, but what you don't want to do is put too much powder in and then add water because it will start separating. So you get yourself a float. That's just basically a squeegee, just helps you get it onto the wall and into the joints. Wherever you start, just try and keep it in the same area. So don't like say start there and then go over there. And there's no rules of where you can start. It's just wherever you feel, really.
When you're applying it, I can see there's bits sort of dropping down onto the worktop. Is there any sense of urgency to make sure you clean that up?
It does dry hard and it dries just like a powder form. So if you was on a laminate worktop, no. If you got real wood worktop, yes. But this has still got to be sanded and treated, so it won't really affect it as such. Generally, if you was to do, you would have sheeting down to protect it. Because this hasn't been treated or finished, it won't cause any issues. You just want to, as well, as you're going along, just try and clean the adhesive off the face of the tile as well. Just makes it easier then when you're doing the clean up at the end.
Have you chosen grey grout because they're grey tile?
Because the pattern could have got away with either colour really. Personal preference really, what you want.
How long after putting tiles on would you expect to come back to them?
Generally about 12 hours. Because if you used to grout it straight after, then the adhesive would never properly set. Obviously you got to make sure that the tiles are clean, because sometimes you get an overspill of the adhesive, the joints as well, because if they're clogged up with adhesive, you won't get your grouting. And obviously your spacers, if you don't take those out and they sit slightly proud and you try to grout it, you'll just have a big line in your grout. Check, double check, triple check to make sure there's nothing preventing the grout from going in the tiles. You'll just discolour the grout. Sometimes if you haven't put enough on, you'll be able to see like little air pockets where it hasn't gone in, like here for example. Yeah, you'll see there's a gap. If you do it opposite direction, back up, it's gone. Keep checking as you're going along so you don't miss anything. As long as it's the same mix of grout, by all means you go back. If you mix a second lot of grout, even if it's out the same bag, sometimes you get a discoloration, a difference in the colour of the grout.
How long will it take for the grout to dry off?
Depends on the temperature. Could be from 5 minutes up to 2-3 hours. But what you want to do as soon as you can is just keep try and clean it as you go through, but leave it probably 10-15 minutes.
Getting the mix right, how would you know it's too thin or too thick?
It's very watery, it just literally run out the joints. You can keep adding powder until you get the right consistency, but if you put too much, if you look at the powder, obviously you can see that's not a nice consistency, but if you put too much powder in, you'll see it'll be lumpy. Probably better off starting off with it weak and building it up that way rather than chucking it all in one go. If you put too much water in and you haven't got enough grout to do the right mix, then it's ruined. If you put not enough water in and it goes thick, it can set quicker than you've actually got time to do. So as long as you stick to what it says on the manufacturer's recommendations, you shouldn't have an issue. We use a thing called Wet Boy. It's like a bucket, you put your water in, it's got like a grate on it for you to put your sponge on, and a couple of rollers to drain it off. And you literally just run it across the face of the tiles. It'll take all the adhesive off the face of the tiles, it'll clean it, give you a better seal on your grout lines, and then you leave that to dry and it'll leave you like a mist. Go over it again 2-3 times. Literally just in between each one, let it dry. So when you've done your third one, you'll leave it, give it like an hour or two, come in and you'll see there'll be like a faint mist over your tiles. And then you can just literally give it a wipe over, gives you a better finish on the tiles. When you come to the cleaning section of it, you've got to make sure that obviously as you go along, everything's clean. So obviously when it's clean, you should have a nice, even grout line. But then if you've got something like where it's like that, it's not clean enough, you've left too much on it. Just keep cleaning it till it goes. Generally do it 3-4 times over, depending on the type of tile, just to get to that finish.
What sort of price range are you looking at?
Because of the size of the area, you generally do it on a per metre square. And again, it varies from tiler to tiler. Depends on their experience. Anything from 35 to 55 really. Depends what's involved, what you have to do to the tiles before you can get to the grouting stage. So that obviously costs to reflect on the cost, size of tiles. So you can't really put an exact figure on tiling because it's all down to the tiles and obviously the area. That price, of what I said, 35 to 55, generally includes your adhesive, because a lot of fitters are set to a particular brand. We use a company called Nicholas and Clark. Never had any issues with them. We've probably used them 10 years plus. Always worked with them. Good quality materials at a reasonable price. So no brainer really.